Looking at our world from a theological perspective. This is the Theology Central Podcast, making theology central.
Good Tuesday evening to everyone. It is Tuesday, June the 15th, 2021. It is currently 6:24 p.m. Central Time, and you know where I'm at. I'm here at Victory Baptist Church, Ovalo, Texas. I'm here in the sanctuary. Once again, the microphone is live. The microphone is on. I'm live on the air, and we've got a lot to talk about today. A lot to talk about. I came out here and just took care of some other things that were very important. My original plan was just to come out here and probably dedicate all of the hours of live broadcasting to everything going on with the Southern Baptist Convention. That was kind of my original thoughts, but I decided to take care of some other things. And then there's still other things we need to do. We need to get back to our series on Bethel Church and their, rediscovering Bethel as they try to clarify their belief system, which, that's been an interesting series. We've been doing a very interesting Bible study exercise in 2 Thessalonians. I need to get back and do at least something with that today. But the big news in the theological world, the Christian world, is the Southern Baptist Convention. They're holding their convention, their meeting today. It started today at I think it was around 9 a.m. Central Time is when it started. I think it was around 9 a.m. Central Time. It may have been earlier, but it started this morning. And if you, right now, it is crazy. If you'll just go do a Google search right now for Southern Baptist Convention, you've got stories from the NPR, from The Guardian, from all kinds of websites. And I'll just start reading some of the headlines. Let's just go through some of the headlines. All right, here we go. Here's headline number one. Look, you may not be Southern Baptist, you may not care, but that's what Southern Baptist, I think, may be the largest Protestant denomination here in the United States of America, maybe the largest Protestant denomination in the world. That may not be accurate, but I know they are the largest in the United States. So whether they are the largest in the world or next to the largest in the world, let's just state this. The Southern Baptist Convention is an extremely influential denomination in Christianity around the world. That cannot be denied. That is factual. And there's been so much controversy surrounding the Southern Baptists leading up to this convention. All right. We've got some major issues going on. All right. Let's just go through them. Critical race theory that everyone keeps talking about. That's a big issue for the Southern Baptist Convention. What are they going to do? How are they going to respond? Who's going to get upset? Who's going to get mad? Will it cause a splintering in the denomination? Will it cause a split? All right. Number two, sexual harassment, sexual abuse, all kinds of sexual crimes. That's a big issue right now. There's accusations of cover-up, all kinds of things going on with that. That's a big issue. Now, none of the news sites, and it doesn't appear anyone in the Southern Baptist Convention thinks it's a big deal. But to me, the third big deal is the Southern Baptist Convention now going to be a Protestant denomination that's going to allow and support the ordination of women? One of the largest Southern Baptist churches, Rick Warren's church, ordained 3 women. Is the Southern Baptist Convention even going to address it? They're going to do it. If they don't address it and they don't do anything about it, then they're basically telling Rick Warren that it's okay. And that tells every other Southern Baptist church, if you want to ordain women, go ahead. Well, then the Southern Baptist Convention can no longer claim that they are a denomination that opposes it. They cannot. At that point, it'll just be ridiculous. So what are they going to do? Well, let's go through these headlines just to show you that some of the things I just mentioned are showing up in the secular news world. All right, here we go. America's top evangelical group is deciding if they're further right than Trump. Well, that's an interesting headline. This was at 11:32 a.m. today. America's top evangelical group is deciding if they're further right than Trump. Now, number one, if you are a Christian group denomination and you're just being associated with Trump, to me, that's already a problem. Because I don't want, if anyone ever was to say about Victory Baptist Church, well, Victory Baptist Church is further right than Trump. Whoa, slow down. We're not further right. We're not further left. We're not right or left. We are supposed to be Christians. We want to be defined by Scripture. We want to be defined by our doctrine, our theology, and following Christ, not by any political leaning, any way, shape, or form, right, left. No, I don't want to be defined. I don't even want to be mentioned in the same sentence as politics. Politics, I want it removed from all churches is what I would like. But let's see what they have to say here, right? Southern Baptists are gathered this week in Nashville, Tennessee for an annual meeting that could prove a turning point as the faithful square off on an array of divisive issues that some fear could drive a wedge in the largest Protestant denomination in the United States. So I was correct. It is the largest Protestant denomination in the United States. I don't know about globally or worldwide, but at least in the United States. Tuesday marks the first full day for the event, which the voting members of the Southern Baptist Convention could tackle high-profile issues, including racial discrimination. Now, racial discrimination, put critical race theory, gender inequality. Now, that's interesting. That could be dealing with women being ordained in ministry, and sexual abuse. So those are the three big ones that I think the Southern Baptists are going to have to deal with. Critical race theory, or racial discrimination, gender inequality, if that deals with women being ordained in ministry, and sexual abuse. They got to deal with the sexual abuse. Well, one of the things that drove Beth Moore out of the Southern Baptist Convention was she was frustrated that they weren't doing anything about it and didn't seem to care. And if you're a denomination and people are saying you don't care about sexual abuse, I'm sorry, you've got a problem, all right? The organization is one of the country's most politically influential. Stop right there. There's problem number one. The organization. Now, first I call it this organization, the Southern Baptist Convention. The organization. I don't even like that phrase. I don't want to be a church that's called an organization, right? But is one of the country's most politically influential. You know how influential I want my church to be on politics? None. Okay. I don't want to be influential in the political world. The political world to me is anathema. I can't stand the political world. I hate it all. It's dirty. It's nothing. It's weak, ineffectual, and cannot change the human heart. It cannot change anyone. And therefore it's ineffectual in fixing the problems, because I think the problems in our world are spiritual, and we are fighting a spiritual war, and you cannot win a spiritual war through politics. All right. I know I say that like every other broadcast, but let me say it again. All right. So let's go through this. There's so much to get to in this broadcast. I'm going to go as fast as I can. All right. So the organization is one of the country's most politically influential. It has long aligned itself with conservative causes. Now, please note, that's the church aligning itself with conservative causes. Why would the church ever align itself with conservative causes? We should just be out there pursuing biblical truth. And if conservatives want to try to align themselves with us, they can try. I mean, I know some people will think this is crazy. Right here where our church is located, it's hard to I'm going to try to draw a mental picture here. When I come to the church using the back road, I don't come through Tuscola, I go the back way, right? So I come down this back county road in the middle of nowhere. The only thing I see out there are cows and dogs and wild pigs. Oh, we got a wild pig problem here, but we won't go into that. All right. So I drive down the road, and right when I come to get right next to the church building and I turn into the parking lot, there's a stop sign right there. Okay. And sometimes people will put little signs right there. Like right now, there's a sign there advertising somebody's landscaping business, right? Out here in the middle of nowhere. Okay, great. So, but when I first came down the highway, the county road, and I got ready to turn into the parking lot, and I saw the sign, immediately my heart almost stopped. And I was like, wait a minute. If someone just put a political sign right there, I don't care what the candidate is. I don't care who the politician is, and I don't care the political party. That thing's coming down so fast, and I'm calling and find out who put it there, because I don't want a political sign anywhere on my church property, because I'm not aligning myself with any political cause or any political party. My allegiance is to Christ and to his word. So I don't align myself with conservative causes. I hate that verbiage. Now, I understand this is the secular media, but I want you to see, you say, well, the secular media doesn't have it right. They may not. But isn't it our job to try to ensure that we can never be accused of aligning ourselves with conservative causes? No, we are out preaching the gospel. teaching the truth. That's what we're doing. We're not trying to win conservative causes. But you know why churches are viewed that way? Because we try to run around fighting culture wars and trying to fight them politically. That's the problem, all right? It says, for it has long aligned itself with conservative causes, and top evangelicals in the convention enthusiastically backed former President Donald Trump. And, well, that's the political hijacking of the church. I know that's not going to be addressed at the convention. That it should be addressed at the convention. Now, there were some tweets today sent out of someone whose pastor is at the convention. He's been sending me information. There were some tweets sent out today basically talking about this very thing that I continue to rail against, and that's the political hijacking of the Southern Baptist Convention. And it goes back to their enthusiastic backing of President Donald Trump, and even before that. This week, the Southern Baptist Convention's voting members will choose a new leader, a decision that could either signal a continuation of the status quo or set a stage for a more conservative ideological shift. Now, please note, a conservative ideological shift. No, you want a conservative theological shift. A theological shift that signifies the political hijacking of the church is coming to an end. That's what we need. We need a Southern, well, not we, because I'm not a Southern Baptist, but the Southern Baptist needs a Southern Baptist leader to say, you know what we're going to signify? The end of all this political nonsense. If you want to be political, go find a new denomination. Get out. We're a church. We're a Christian denomination. We're not a affiliate of the Republican political party or the liberal, Democrat, progressive political party. They go on to say, I think the denomination, and this is, I think they're getting ready to quote someone here because they have quotes here. So they're quoting someone. I think the denomination is at a crossroads, but Southern Baptists are often at a crossroads. Allison Colas Green, an associate professor of religious history at Emory University, tells NPR, none of these things happen overnight, and this one has been brewing for a while. The spotlight was already on SBC leaders as they entered this week's convention. Last week, Russell Moore, a former president of the SBC's Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission, posted letters and secret recordings of internal SBC meetings that critics have said shows the denomination's top leaders were slow-walking reforms that would address sexual abuse. Moore has parted ways with the church. Well, again, why would they slow walk reforms about sexual abuse? Like, what is going on? At this point, the SBC's core values are deeply connected with the Republican Party politics, Green says. Please note, their core values are deeply connected with Republican Party politics. When your church is deeply connected with Republican Party politics, you're no longer a church. You're no longer the bride of Christ. You are prostituting the church for political influence. You're taking the bride of Christ, turning it into a prostitute for political influence and for political victory and for political power. And that is wrong. Right? And that's me saying that. That's not the article. That's me saying that, okay? Green says, I'd use the term reactionary rather than conservative to describe those, particularly with regard to race, gender, and authority. In 2018, the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, the denomination's flagship institution, issued a report on the role that racism has played in the leadership and how support for slavery helped shape the denomination in its earliest days. And there's no way to get around that. That's just the truth. Now, how much should the past be brought up to the present? Well, if it should be brought up in the present if it's still a problem and if people have not acknowledged and repented and apologized for it. But all right, we could have a long discussion about that. All right. An effort, now this is very important, an effort to address sexual abuse was blocked. The SBC announced last week that it hired Guidepost Solutions, an independent investigation and risk management firm, to review the group's handling of internal abuse issues. However, during the SBC Executive Committee meeting Monday, leaders rejected a request by Jared Wellman, a Texas pastor, to amend its agenda to consider expanding the third-party investigation of the leadership's handling of sexual abuse claims. So, hey, let's expand this investigation to the leadership's handling of sexual abuse claims. Wellman's amendment would have required the SBC to appoint an independent task force to receive the full report from Guidepost and relay its findings to the entire convention. Right? So they want to get the information out to everyone. Let's get the information out to everyone. Joe Knott, the executive committee secretary, argued that such a step would violate Baptist policy by handing essentially unlimited power to an outside party, according to the Baptist press. Nassau also said the proposal wouldn't stop sexual abuse. The issue is reportedly not dead, and critics of the move have expressed outrage over the executive committee's inaction. On social media, a group of people who say that they face sexual abuse within the denomination shared an open letter to the leadership demanding change. Now, again, why do they not want the information out there? Why? Now, I have heard reports that they don't want it out there because they think if the information gets out there, it's going to be horrific. It's going to be horrible. Could there be something motivating them? They don't want any more negative attention brought to the issue and brought to the Southern Baptist Convention. Could there be something motivating them not to want that to happen? Something other than a concern with truth? Just keep that question in mind. If you see the title for this podcast episode, you know where I'm going, because I'll explain it in just a minute. Because I went back to a report that was released in May that you may not have missed, but I think it's very important going into this convention to have this background. So just stay with me. All right. There's a brewing controversy over critical race theory. The majority of the Southern Baptist membership remains white, and it is less diverse than U.S. Protestants overall, according to the Pew Research Center. When the executive committee voted in leadership elections Monday, Roland Slade, the committee's first black chairman, was reelected to a second one-year term without opposition. But little else about the denomination reflects diversity, critics say. Dwight McKissick, a pastor of the Cornerstone Baptist Church in Arlington, Texas, not too far from where I'm sitting, a couple of hours away, about 2.5 hours away, spoke with NPR Morning Edition last week of his concern with the recent effort within the SBC to ban the teaching of critical race theory at its seminaries. In a controversial move last year, the Council of Seminary Presidents of the Southern Baptist Convention affirmed in a statement that while the seminaries condemn racism in any form, they agree that affirmation of critical race theory, intersectionality, and any version of critical race theory is incompatible with the Baptist faith and message. The statement caused a backlash among some black pastors, causing several to leave. All right, so there's the critical race theory that is. Again, they're going to have to come up with. I don't even know why critical race theory is an issue within a church. Why are you teaching critical race theory in a seminary? How about theology, church history, exegesis of the text, right? I don't get it. All right. Women are struggling to find a place in leadership. The SBC forbids women from becoming pastors, although some congregations have ordained them. That's my big issue, right? We forbid you. Okay, but you did it. All right, well, no big deal. Let's carry on, because you're Rick Warren. We're not going to do it. Are they going to do anything about it? That's what I want to know. The executive committee punted on an amendment vote to form a task force of gender and ethnic background study to study the biblical authority and biblical viability of women serving or not serving as the SBC president. The SBC's, so there are already now possibly, that to me is code that there's a move there to, hey, maybe one day we could have a president who's a female, so maybe we should get a committee to supposedly study what the Bible would have to say in regards to this, because we need a committee to study this, because we just can't, I don't know, open our Bibles and figure it out, but that's a whole different subject, right? The SBC's book of reports for this year's convention, which contains reports from SBC entities and recommendations from the executive committee, recommends not making changes to its statement of faith known as the Baptist Faith and Message regarding the role of women. So they're not going to change its faith and their message, their doctrinal statement. But let me make it clear. I don't care if you change your doctrinal statement. If you got churches out there ordaining women, for all practical purposes, you can take your doctrinal statement, go out into the parking lot and burn it because it's useless. It's a waste. I can't stand when you have denominations who are like, here's what we believe. Now, none of our churches are practicing it, but here's what we believe. Your doctrinal statement is useless. Why even have a denominational structure if the local churches are not going to follow the doctrine that you have in your message? If they're not going to follow it, then your denominational structure is useless. You're just a bunch of independent churches. Just act independent, break up the denomination, and get rid of all the political and the politics and the money, and just break it all up and just let independent churches serve as independent churches. Why pretend to have some kind of leadership authority when the churches can do whatever they want anyway? And just go to any Southern Baptist church. Go to any city, right? Go to any city, find 10 Southern Baptist churches and go visit them and see how, in many cases, how utterly diverse the theology and doctrine is. Again, right down the street from my house, if I pull out of my housing community there, the residential community, right? What is it? Skyline Estates, whatever it is. When I pull out of it, if I take a right and I go down the road about, 4 minutes, there is Beltway Park. Used to be Beltway Park Baptist Church. Far as I know, it's still a member of the Southern Baptist Convention. It's a megachurch. We've got a southern campus and we've got a northern campus of Beltway Park. They're charismatic. They've had these crazy conferences with just crazy stuff goes on. They've done things with the charismatic church in town. They're charismatic. If they're still part of the Southern Baptist Convention, well, then it's full-blown charismatic. So so is Southern Baptist Convention now support that? The fact that the denomination doesn't even hold the churches to the standard that they have in the doctrinal statement just makes it all meaningless and useless anyway. Just break away and be an independent church. What's the point? I will never understand the Southern Baptist Convention. I just don't understand it. All right. And then we could go on and read more here. We could read more here. All right. So there's from NPR. Then The Guardian, identity crisis. Will the U.S. largest evangelical denomination move even further right? 1 hour ago, Southern Baptist sidestep direct attack on critical race theory. All right. And if I hit view all, it's one story after another story after another story. You can go read all of the stories. There is so much going on. All right. 22 hours ago, Southern Baptist Church says it uncovered 10 abuse victims of minister who prompted earlier investigation. So now all kinds of stories are going to be coming out about sexual abuse in the church. I'm guaranteeing it's going to become just one story after another. And Southern Baptist Church, look, you can run and hide, but if you got sexual abuse going on in the denomination, you're going to have to deal with it. And you're going to try. What are you going to do? And I think there is a move in this. Here's the thing. I think what the Southern Baptist Convention is going to try to do here is say, okay, look, we take sexual abuse serious. We're going to do something, but we're not going to do everything, right? Because we want some control over this. All right, critical race theory. I think they're going to try their best to say, yes, we care about race, we want diversity, but we're not going to do. They're going to try to find something in the middle to try to keep everyone happy. And I think they're just going to do everything they can to basically punt, dodge, and ignore anything about women ordination and women being the next president of the Southern Baptist Convention or possible president of the Southern Baptist Convention. I think they're going to do a lot of trying to ignore this, which ultimately may leave everyone unhappy. And I think they are motivated because of this. Are you ready? Here we go. Southern Baptist Church. I want you to listen to this. Southern Baptist Church membership suffers new historic one-year decline of more than 400,000. I want you to hear that headline again. Southern Baptist churches, right, and membership in their churches have suffered a new historic one-year decline of more than 400,000 people. Here's the story. A year After reporting the largest single membership decline in more than 100 years, churches in the Southern Baptist Convention, the nation's largest Protestant denomination, lost more than 400,000 members in 2020 and set a new record for the single-year decline amid the coronavirus pandemic and a bitter culture war. The Southern Baptists lost 400,000 members in 1 year. In 12 months, they lost 400,000 people. Now you can that's got to be configured in what there's motivation of what the Southern Baptists are going to be trying to do. You can't watch the convention and not look at it from this lens. There's going to be some people that are like, we got to do something to preserve this. We got to do something to fix this. We got to do something to stop the ship from sinking. And because I don't even know how you process that many people being gone. The annual church profile report shows membership in Southern Baptist congregations declined by a staggering 435,632 in 2020, more than 50% higher than 287,655 members the denomination reported losing from 2018 to 2019. So they lost over 200,000, and then they went up and then moved that up to over 400,000. Well, the number of SBC congregations increased slightly. So they increased the number of congregations, but losing people. If you're losing people, why do you need more congregations? Right? 62. So they only increased by 62, but it's still kind of baffling. It says, let me see, what else do we have here? All right. So in 2006, they had 16.3 million members. They have lost around 2 million since then. They've lost almost 2 million people since 2006. Let's see here. I'm looking here if there's anything else here of any major issues here. They get into the end there and discuss a little bit about critical race theory and some other things going on there. But there you have it. The Southern Baptist Church is losing people at a high rate. Now, what is it? So let me bring all of this together. I'll do this. I'll summarize this way. Number one, pay attention to what's going on in the Southern Baptist Church. If you go to a Google search, just type in SBC, Southern Baptist Convention. You may want to do it every couple of hours and see what news articles pop up. Right, you can hit news and just look at the news articles. That's an easy way to do so. Go to Google, type in Southern Baptist Convention, click news, and just look at the latest news headlines. All right. Just do that. And pay attention to what Christian websites are reporting. You can go to the Christian Post, ChristianHeadlines.com, see how they're reporting on it. Then you can look at how the secular media is reporting on it. All right. So pay attention to what's going on. Second, when you're paying attention to what's going on, you have to pay attention to it through the lens of they're losing people at such a rapid pace right now that they've got to fix it. They're gonna try to do everything they can to fix it. Now, so those are two things to look at. But here's number three. What does all of this mean moving forward? Now, I would love to get a report of every major Protestant denomination, Methodist, Church of Christ, just all of them, and see how many are experiencing major declines in membership. Now, I think, now listen to me carefully, this is what I wish and hope for Christianity. One, we need a massive decline in numbers. A massive decline in numbers. We need every denomination losing people left and right. Now, I'm not saying that that's a wonderful thing because people are leaving Christianity. That's a great thing. Obviously, it's sad because you want people to be saved. But listen to what I'm trying to say. Christianity right now is so broken. We need a massive decline. Why? The more people leave, then Christianity is not seen as a worthy political ally. In other words, the politicians won't go, well, I got to try to appease these Christians and let's look to the church for help. Well, the church is going to lose its political influence. And once it begins to lose its political influence, then the politicians won't look to us. And if we lose that political influence, then maybe instead of prostituting the church to politicians, we'll get back to being the bride of Christ and try to please Christ, glorify Christ, and get back to being a church and stop being a political outreach, arm of the Republican Party or any other political party. See, the more you lose your numbers, you lose your political worth. Politicians need numbers. They need voters. They need people who will give them money. If the church doesn't have that power anymore, then the politicians are going to go, well, forget you. Why are we going to worry about what you want and what you need? We're going to go focus on what other people want, what other people need. And then the politicians won't look to the church. And so we'll lose that influence, lose that power. And I think that will ultimately cure the political hijacking of the church. So I wish that would happen, but we'll see. We'll see. So that's one thing that when I think about these loss of numbers. But what does it all mean for Christianity moving forward? Now, you can guess what's going to happen. As the numbers decrease, churches will become more and more desperate to throw anything and everything they can at people to try to attract a crowd, keep a crowd, gain a crowd. They're going to try anything. It'll just be more ridiculousness, more fun, food, and activities, more pleasing the people. It'll be detrimental to preaching, detrimental to theology. It's just going to get worse, and it's just going to get worse and worse. The church is it'll compromise more and more and more and more and more. It'll be like, we'll ordain women, we'll ordain they're just going to compromise on everything because they don't want to lose people. You lose people, these many kingdoms that we created with these big mega churches and these major denominations, those things, they can't survive without people. They need money, 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 money. You lose all of that, it comes crashing down. So that's one of the major things we're going to see happen. But what does this mean? We're going to see desperation, but just stay with me here. At what point do we as Christians stop? Now, I don't know what your eschatology is, but at what point do we stop and start looking, going, wait a minute, look at what's happening to the church. The numbers are decreasing. More and more people are leaving. More and more people are leaving. Look at the conditions of the church. Look at what's happening inside the churches. At what point do we may start thinking we're getting close to maybe biblical prophecy kind of stuff happening about the last days? Or do you think we're getting kind of where it's starting to become like very obvious and present in front of us? I think it's something to consider. And then I think we have to start asking ourselves, what's going to happen? I mean, look, I guarantee you, I'll just state this. I'll be dogmatic. The condition of the church in 2021, you think it's bad? Give it 10 years. You haven't seen anything. The condition of the church in general is going to get worse and worse, and it's going to increase at a far more rapid pace than it has in your lifetime. Like, you can look at what the church was doing in the 90s and all the complaining about it in the 90s and in the 2000s, and now here in the 2020. By the time we get to the end of I would say 8 years from now, 8 years, 9 years from now, maybe even 5 years from now, it's going to pick up a pace of the church just completely unraveling, completely falling apart. And denominations are going to, Look, I don't even know how many denominations are going to even be standing 5 years from now, 6 years from now, that hold to anything that remotely looks like historical biblical Christianity. I think the denominations are going to completely implode. So you're going to end up with a lot of independent churches, right? And what do you do when the denominations are falling apart all around you? Even the independent churches are falling apart all around you. What are you going to do with you and your family? What are you going to do for church? Where are you going to turn? What is it going to look like? I don't know what the answer is. Now, I know this. Obviously, I can turn on the microphone and do everything in my power to provide people the best spiritual food and encouragement and teaching that I possibly can and be willing to do anything I can for people. But I don't know what the ultimate answer is. I cannot imagine. I'm just trying to imagine right now how bad it's going to be 5 or 6 years from now. You're losing 400,000 people 400,000 people in a year? That is absolutely insane. In fact, let me, before I wrap this up, because I remember reading this article. I don't know if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it. Because it was, I think it had a pretty staggering statistic in it, if I can find it. Let me see. Give me a second here. It may take a second. It may take a second for me to find it. Okay, just give me a second here. Okay, here we go. The article is called "Why So Many Empty Churches: A Reminder and a Warning for Southern Baptists." All right, now this is here we go. Many of our nation's churches can no longer afford to maintain their structures. Now listen to this. This is absolutely insane. All right, so we have churches who can no longer afford to maintain their structures. All right, so what's going to happen? The structure goes away. Look, many people go to churches because of nice big building. They don't, a lot of people won't go to a church in a little broken down building. Trust me, I know. All right. But listen, this number is staggering. 6,000 to 10,000. 6,000 to 10,000 churches die each year in America, and that number will likely grow. Between 6,000 to 10,000 churches die. They cease to exist every year, and that number is predicted to grow. Though more than 70% of our citizens still claim to be Christian, congregational participation is less central to many Americans' faith than it once was. Most denominations are declining as a share of the overall population, and donations to congregations have been falling for decades. Meanwhile, religiously unaffiliated Americans, nicknamed the Nones, N-O-N-E-S, are growing as a share of the U.S. population. That is all horrible, staggering numbers. Churches are dying by the thousands. People are still claim to be Christian, but they're no longer affiliated. Denominations are dying. Churches are dying. And what is the future? People now are more likely to just say, I'm a Christian and I don't need the church. Now, we've been having a long discussion about church and what it looks like and what it should be and how do we understand church and how do we understand, the being local and an assembly versus the concept of a universal. We've been debating a lot of that and here at Victory Baptist Church in our Sunday school study on the Niagara Creed. It's very controversial, but we've been looking at it. But all of this comes to what is it going to look like in the future? Now, I know this, first and foremost, you've got people out there not going to church. We got to get to them and reach them. And one of the ways we can do that is what I'm doing right here through podcasting. But there's a lot there to consider. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I think the future is not good. And if the Southern Baptist splinters, like most experts say it won't split, it's going to splinter. I don't know exactly the difference between splintering and a split, but it's going to splinter. And I think a lot of people are going to leave. And I don't know what that means for the future of the Southern Baptist Convention. The Methodists are already falling apart. So when it's all said and done, what denominations are going to be left? If you've got a decent church, if you've got a good church, man, support it. But let me tell you this, you're going to have to do more than invite people to your church. Because the church is no longer going to be based on just the people sitting in the pews, because most of the people are not going to come sit in a pew. You're going to have to get out there to the people. So you better be using technology to get to the people. You better use the technology that you can, and teach the Bible, teach doctrine, theology, and get it out there. I cannot stress that enough. All right, it's 7:02 p.m. So I'm going to head home. There's so much I wanted to do this evening. I know I did not get to half the things I needed to do, but tomorrow is Wednesday. I don't know what our tomorrow evening situation is going to be here at Victory Baptist Church, but what I may plan to do tomorrow is, if I can, I may try to get here around 2 in the afternoon and maybe just stay till 7 p.m., 8 p.m., and just do a lot of broadcasting. That's the plan. So we'll see. We have a lot to do. Hopefully something we said today was beneficial, but pray for the Southern Baptist Convention. Just pray for your church. Pray. I don't know. Just pray. I mean, it's not a good situation, but yeah, there's a lot there to process. And I just try to look forward to where you think things are going. Just try to look beyond today. Where do you think things are headed? And I think it's not good. I think Christianity is getting ready to go through a major transformation here in the United States of America to a very cultural and significant thing, and a politically, I hope, a politically something that's not very relevant even from a political standpoint. I'm hoping in some ways we lose all of that, and then we'll turn our attention. Maybe if Christianity becomes smaller, it can become more focused on what we're supposed to do. I don't know, but you can tell me what you think. All right, I'll stop right there. Everyone have a great evening. You can email me at newsif@yahoo.com, newsif@yahoo.com. Everyone have a great night. God bless.